All right, so grouting. This is one area that I always get a lot of questions about, and specifically what's the best grout to use. And I will always go back to this until they come out with something better, but this is Laticrete Spectralock Pro Epoxy. And I've always recommended for years, if you're planning on doing white grout, you want to use an epoxy grout, something that's going to be really stain resistant. There's a lot of grouts out there that claim they're stain resistant and they're easy to clean, and in reality, they just simply aren't. I've definitely had past clients that have a lot of issues keeping white grout specifically clean, but one type of grout that I've tested over time, and even in my own showers, is the Spectralock Pro Epoxy. I also find it the easiest epoxy of all to actually adhere and clean and get everything, basically the labor aspect of it to be simplest. Now that could be just because I've done thousands of square feet of this, but in the next 5 minutes, I want to go through a bunch of tips on installing this epoxy grout so you can make sure that you get a good result out of your own shower. And I'll leave some links down below as well. So definitely check it out. Again, if you're doing white grout, you want to do it with epoxy. If you're doing something like gray or darker, you could definitely afford to do a little less expensive grout. And that'll last a long time. So let's go get into it. A couple things about epoxy grout that you have to be aware of. Number one is that it's a 3-part system. So there's part A and B that you mix, and then with the actual sand mixture, the color essentially. And one issue with this is that once it's set up, that's it. You can't go back like the next day if you find a spot that you missed. You're gonna have to buy a whole another kit to be able to adhere anything that you missed. So you really have to pay attention to make sure that all your grout joints are filled. And that's really primarily the biggest thing. And if you run out, obviously it's really costly. They do make smaller units of this. This is a 9-pound unit. So the bag of sand mixture is 9 pounds, but they do make a mini. I believe it's 2 pounds, or maybe it's 4 pounds. It's half of this much. But that would be something that you can purchase, you know, if you missed something, I guess you could say. But I'm gonna prevent you from having those problems, because one thing about epoxy, it gives you plenty of time. Unlike a lot of other types of grouts that are kind of fast setting, you're gonna have plenty of time to fill this in, and you'll be able to make sure that everything looks good. Oh, they even give you a sponge. That's kind of nice. I didn't even know they gave you that. And they give you some gloves too. That's kind of nice. You're definitely going to want to wear some gloves on the mixing aspect of this. Okay, then there's part A and part B. So we're going to need every bit of this. So I'd say the biggest thing here is just making sure that you get all of it out of the package. Squeeze it out. Because every little bit really does make a difference with this stuff. Mix these two together first. So my first tip is to hold back on some of this sand. Don't use it all. You can take up to about 10% of this out of this mixture. And this is just gonna make it a little bit more fluid and easier to work with. So I got, what, about 1.5 cups maybe? Of that out of there, so then we'll just mix the rest of it. Because if you mix it all, it gets pretty thick, and the thicker it is, the harder it is to pack into the joints. Okay, so you can see how flowy that is. You know, if I would have added all of that sand, it ends up getting very thick. So it really depends on the tile installation that you're installing. I mean, this is going to be great to go over these subway tiles, but if you had, like, I don't know, some bigger joints, like maybe like a 1/4 inch joints, you might want to make this a little bit thicker. So you can always just add the part C. So if you want to make it a little bit thicker, add a little bit more that you took out of it. But this really does help a lot because, you know, once it's really thick, it's like a lot of elbow grease to get everything in there. Okay, so the first step, just lightly take a damp sponge and wipe down your tile surface. So this is going to help glide that over top of the tile. Having a good grout float really helps out. This is a Troxel grout float. kind of has like it's like fully rubber, but having something that can basically push the grout into the joints really helps out. And then it's just a matter of filling all the joints. And this is going to be the most critical part of the whole thing, is just making sure that they're filled. At this stage of the game, you're not worried about what's left on the tile. And honestly, it's going to be very easy to remove this when it's ready to. So don't be concerned about really what's left on the tile. That'll all be able to be scrubbed off. So at this stage, it's just really a matter of paying attention to all those joints and making sure they're filled. And what's nice about having everything caulked is that you're able to just go straight up to there and not worry about filling that ceiling joint with caulking. Really is going to make it easy to really finish this. So go on a 45 degree if you can. I mean, this is obviously kind of like a herringbone style pattern tile that it's kind of all over the place. So however you can, you don't have to worry, like I said, you don't have to worry too much about taking it off. The last thing you want to do though is take too much out of the actual joint, because then you're going to have to fill it before you go to wash it off. Yeah, so taking out that little 10%, not even 10%, that cup of the part C has made this really easy to glide over these tiles. The thicker it is, the harder it is to get into these joints. So this is like a nice treat. It's just very fluid. And the one thing I also like about this epoxy grout, it's very fine aggregate. So it's not like an unsanded. I mean, unsanded is about the least amount of aggregate as possible, but it's very fine. So it's going to be easy to clean as far as the surface goes. Anything that's rough, like a rough sanded grout, is always more troublesome to clean.
Grout, the epoxy that you used in Mark's basement bathroom that was really rough?
That was Ardex WA. Very, very sticky. It was very...
You were really upset doing that.
It was a lot of work.
And it was the haze.
The haze was awful. This stuff, I have not, knock on tile, I guess. I've never had a grout haze from this particular epoxy being troublesome to remove on any type of tile at this point. So there's a lot of grouts that are really tough to get removed, that epoxy grout or epoxy haze, but this stuff, it's very simple. And I'm going to show you some tips later on that make that, it really basically eliminates that haze from being an issue. And it really is just about the final cleanup stage. But one misconception about epoxy is people think that this sets up very quickly and they got to work really, really fast, and that's not the case at all. I mean, it's pretty chilly in here. It's definitely colder. So if you're in a hot environment, it might, it's definitely going to set up a little bit faster. But you usually have a good 25-30 minutes before you have to clean any of this off. And I'm betting with this cold environment, I'm probably gonna be waiting a half hour. And really, it's all about the timing. It's just kind of like concrete work. You have to find the right time to start cleaning it off to make it easy. And I'm gonna show you that here in a little bit of what you want to look for.
How does this compare to the big box stores grout? A lot of people just go to Home Depot and buy a white grout there.
As far as installing it, really almost nothing. you know, I mean, there's no doubt a traditional grout is pretty easy to set. I mean, I would say it's pretty much the similar aspect of labor, but the big difference is the maintenance afterwards, the cleaning, you know, because even when those packages say like no need for sealing, you're going to want to seal that stuff. Any cementitious grout, you're going to want to seal it to prevent any stains from getting into the joint. But you know, as far as white goes, yeah, I mean, I haven't found a client that didn't have a problem with white grout on our traditional type of white grout. It's just problematic getting back to clean, especially with all the dyes and things that we have in our, you know, soaps and shampoos and things. You know, that orange color definitely likes to stain things. And with the epoxy, since it's basically a two-part chemical process, I mean, nothing's penetrating it. You know, now there could be surface dirt, obviously, but you'll be able to, you know, scrub this and get it back to that white color. I mean, I personally don't use too many of the stuff from the box stores, unless it's like a kitchen backsplash or something that's like not quite as going to take a lot of abuse from, you know, the user. You know, showers take a lot of abuse. I mean, this is every day, you know, multiple times a day, you know, you're getting dirt and grime and all types of things in it that you know, just got to keep from building up.
What about grout fallout, like what your brother Bill experienced in the girls' bathroom?
Yeah, some of those premixes are just not good stuff. I've definitely seen a lot of people have trouble with the grout cracking and falling out of the joints like years later, and it's just, I don't know what the true cause of that is. It's basically just the premix grout just can't handle the, I guess, the expansion and contraction of the shower. I'm not real sure, but I've always told people to stay away from the big box store premixes. I just don't think they're any good. And I've really gotten away from using any of the premixes. I mean, the only one I do use occasionally is this Spectralock 1, which is Laticrete's premix, but I still question it because I don't have 10 years behind my belt on it. I have 10 years in this easily. And I know that this stuff is, you know, a lot of the showers that I've done look exactly like I just did them. So, so yeah, the premixes at the stores, I don't really trust them, and I've definitely seen issues with them, and it's terrible. There's nothing worse than a year later your grout's falling out of your joints.
Yeah, especially with Bill's, it happened, I feel like a couple months after he...
Yeah, it wasn't much. You know, I mean, but it's still, even any of my showers, this is, as of right now, this is what I'm using on every one of my own personal showers because I'm so happy with the results of it. I mean, our boys' bathroom has penny tiles, which has a lot of grout, and it still looks...
Just like the day you installed it?
It still does, yeah, it does. And a lot of penny tile installations, they look awful because the grout, you know, changes color and it doesn't, you know, because of the staining, and you can't get it clean and it looks awful.
So pre-mixed grouts from big box stores, big no. But if you have the grout that you mix from the big box store,
yeah,
it should be okay.
It should be okay. Yeah, I just like the sanded grouts. I mean, they're just very gritty, and anything gritty is going to be hard to clean. And then also if you have, you know, like I said, the cementitious regular, you know, ones that you mix in a bag, you're going to have to seal it and seal it. You know, you really should seal it every year at minimum, and that no one wants to do that because then they can't use their shower for a day. Like, I don't know anybody that goes back and seals their shower.
And this one you don't have to seal.
You don't know. There's no reason to, because it's the 2-part chemical process that there's nothing to seal really. I mean, it's
so the cost is all up front, but then
exactly
because you don't have to seal.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
I'm catching on.
Yeah, there's no doubt. This is a steep increase in cost, and if you're a contractor doing this, you know, like I ordered two bins of this stuff, and I don't know if I'm going to go through the second one, but I'm definitely charging 2 things of this just in case I miss something, or you know, I'm running out, because you know, that's $140 at this moment. It's like that's an extra $140 coming out of my pocket because I ran out or missed something. So you know, I'll be charging the client for that. So it's a premium installation for sure, but the client won't ever have to do anything. So on this, so the other thing I love about the epoxy is that it's such a rock solid type of grout that I usually just grout the corners in my niches versus caulking it, because ultimately it looks better rather than having a starch white corner. And I haven't had any issues with the cracking. No, I mean,
knock on fire.
Yeah, it's I really haven't had any issues to this point, but you know, it's one of those things that if you did have a crack, then go ahead and caulk it, you know. But in my mind, I'd rather the niche looks really nice than having a separate.
Agreed. It looks like a film of plastic in there.
Yeah, it's just like, because even the matching caulk, it just doesn't quite match. But I do like it because I've definitely done all my niches with this, with the epoxy, and never had an issue. So, but you know, my thoughts are this: if it does be an issue, then go ahead and grout it, or then go ahead and caulk it. It's not going to hurt anything. All right, so this is, you know, like I said, don't worry about how much is on it. Just make sure everything's filled. Because if it's not filled, there's nothing you can do when you go to clean it up. So even if I do have a lot left on here, this is not a big deal.
Oh yeah. It looks great.
Okay, so before we move on, just pay attention to all your joints. Make sure they're all filled. And like I said, don't worry about anything that's really left on there. It's not going to be a big deal. Just want to make sure it's filled. You still have time to fill in this when you go to clean it, but it's just better to have it all filled now, because you'll be able to essentially scrub everything even with the tile. You don't have to mess around with anything. Okay, so moving on to the next.
I think you're gonna have to mix that other bucket.
Yeah, probably am. Subway tile takes a lot of grout, and is for sure. So you can just grout right against the edge here if you want. If you're concerned about the time it takes you to do this, just get the mini packages of this and just do one wall at a time. You know, if you really, because I mean, I've been doing a lot of this stuff, so I know that I can grout this entire shower and get everything done. You know, but if I was in a bathroom that had, you know, sunlight coming right on this wall, I would you know, I'd be even maybe questioning maybe doing that as well, because sunlight, any type of air movement, you know, if you had some kind of a breeze in here for whatever reason, it's gonna make this all set up a lot faster. And I'd say that's the biggest thing about this. If you get behind on it, you know, if you wait too long, if you took lunch or took a phone call, and once you're behind it, then it's a lot of work. Then it's like that nightmare that everyone's afraid of. But you have plenty of time before that happens. But it can happen if you're not paying attention, if you have the wrong environment. Like I said, if you have daylight coming in here, if you have a breeze coming in here, you know, it might be worth getting those smaller packages and just doing one wall at a time, so that you're not stressed. Because if you're, you know, if your arm wears out at this point, I mean, you're going to be wasting a lot of money. I mean, I'm not saying you can't just stop right here and finish what you have, but you don't want to, you know, this stuff is expensive. You don't want to be having to buy another bucket of it.
Do you always order more than you think?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And I, you know, especially for a client, I am not going to pay out of pocket for this type of grout. You know, I mean, if I screw up a batch, I'll take ownership of it. But, you know, even if I'm like 5 square feet that I need, I mean, I'm, you know, for a shower like this, I'm just always going to order 2 units. So it's always going to be pretty expensive. I'm just not going to just buy 1 unit. I mean, the only way I do 1 unit is if this was like bigger tile, like 12 by 24s or something like that. But subway tile, this is a lot of subway tile. This is a big shower. There's a lot of joints, and then we got the shower floor. That's going to hog up a lot too. So they have an estimator. You know, I'll leave a link down below for the estimator, but you know, there's a lot of waste in this too. So.
Sure. It's stupid that, you know, like light changes our metabolism. That too. Yeah, all that goes into, you know, the dysfunction. I'll call level up. Yeah, like the legal limit. 0.08.
Okay, so just pay attention, go over your entire tile job. Just make sure everything's filled before you move on to the floor. And again, don't worry about the excess. None of that's gonna really matter. All right, so now the easy part is the floor. So just take your sponge and just wipe it down a little bit. Now I can just fill all these joints. Quite a stark contrast
I was
there.
just gonna say that. I think it'll help lighten it up.
And we got our temporary cover in here, so you can just grout straight to it. Don't worry about getting it on that cover, because that cover will pop right out, put your drain in. Nice even transition into the shower. So with these hexagons, I think the most important thing is just not to drag too much out of the joint. Just kind of lightly go over it, and if some of it stays on there, not a big deal. You know, I mean, ideally it'd be nice just to do the floor first and then the walls, but if you're running out of grout, I mean, really, I mean, there's not too many job instances that I would do that just because of timing. You know, it's just too painful to wait. But if you have the time to wait, yeah, just do the floor first, tape everything off, and then do the walls. That can really make it a lot easier on you. So, without a doubt, doing white grout on the floor, you're definitely going to want it to be epoxy. This is something that can be stained very easily, and epoxy is going to make sure that it lasts. I couldn't see doing any other color on this though. I mean, you could do gray, I guess, but okay, so the floor is definitely going to take a while, and since that's the last thing we're doing, I'm going to have to set some cardboard down to go over top of this so that we can scrub the walls. But I think the walls are going to still be 20 minutes out before needing to be scrubbed. All right, so the floor is definitely not ready yet. So just put some cardboard down. All right, so what you're looking for is no, that's not too bad actually. So what you're looking for is just take your dry finger and press on the joint. And basically what you're trying to eliminate is having any of it pull out on your finger. So it's all clean, it's not bad. So let's just test this. So yeah, I'm able to mold it and it's not pulling out of the joint. So I could probably get working on this. So that's their first initial test. And then what we'll do is scrub an area and make sure. But even like looking at this floor, yeah, see, I can just pull all that out right there. This floor is not ready yet at all. So if you see this, that's you have to wait. But this, you know, I'm able to touch this and not getting on there. So they do have an additive for the water. So this is going to be a critical thing, is having a bunch of clean water. So we'll just add this initial cleaning solution in here. It's going to help eliminate some of that haze. All right, so next big thing is these scrubby pads. I usually just get like a 5-pack because once they get gunked up, then they really don't clean much anymore. But this is going to be your major initial wash mechanism. So what we want to do, and what's awesome about this is that, you know, it doesn't matter how much water you get on their surface. So this is one different thing about this type of grout. But we're just going to test an area and make sure that we can scrub this and not remove any of the grout out of the joint. So this is looking pretty good. I'm able to scrub that joint, get it nice and smooth, get all that excess off of there, and that's what I want to be able to do. If you see yourself pulling out the grout too much, then you want to wait. You don't want it to be, you know, you want to be able to almost like toll the joint with this rough sponge. And then let's just take a look. Yeah, that'll work just fine. So yeah, we're able to get those joints all nice and even with that tile. So we can go ahead and scrub everything, wipe everything down with a sponge, and then I'll show you a tip here shortly that's going to help really prevent that haze from coming back. But this is the one real different aspect of this, is like you can see how much water I'm just putting on the surface and scrubbing. This is what makes it so easy to clean. And you're not having to worry about any of the joints washing out. Any normal grout, all that grout would be coming out of those joints, but not with epoxy. It's kind of sticky, it sticks in those joints, and I'm able to just really concentrate getting all of that grout off the surface. So we'll just scrub this whole wall and then we'll go over it with the sponge. You know, that shower floor is not ready to scrub yet, but that water's not going to hurt it. We're just gonna, it'll be just going straight into the drain anyways. I mean, this is where it is nice if you have the ability or the time. Do that shower floor first, let it sit up overnight, and you really don't have to worry about any of that excess water affecting anything. But the water's not going to affect this type of grout.
So it feels like counterintuitive.
Yep,
Yeah.
compared to any other type of grout, it sure is. You'd never be able to do this with another grout. Now we'll take our sponge and we'll really tool the joint. Make sure we get all that excess off of there. And what's really helpful for that haze is just take a microfiber cloth after you run the sponge over there and just wipe off that excess water. That's going to help prevent that haze from coming back. Now we are going to do another wash after this in about an hour, but this is going to take off like 90% of that haze. Also allows you to really pay attention to those joints, make sure everything's nice and smooth. But this is really the ticket right here to prevent any of that haze from building up there. Now I do have a spot right here that I'm missing. So I did leave whatever little bit I have left. So you want to just fill that in any of those areas. So hopefully you don't have too many spots that you have to do that, but it happens. And I even have some right here, right along that joint. Okay, so then that'll be the initial wash on this one. Just leave that alone, make sure everything's filled in.
Oh, honey, that niche looks amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. All right, so we're gonna move on to the next wall. Make sure any pinholes, you fill them in. I'll be able to do it later. I mean, you can do it on the final wash too if the epoxy stays moldable enough. I mean, some of this stuff, it will last quite a long time in the bucket, but if you just pay attention to all the subtleties and fill in any areas that might have washed out, the better off you'll be. Yeah, even like right here, I got a little pinhole. Okay. All right, so we're gonna wipe up some of this excess water on this. Might have to let this dry a little bit longer before I can really scrub it. Tell you what, that's not too bad. I think I'm just gonna wipe it off with the microfiber. Really not gonna need much scrubbing on this, so I'm just gonna wipe this off to prevent some of the haze from...
Is it all pretty even?
Yeah. Tell you what, I think we'll just keep it at that until final wash. Because I don't want to scrub too hard and get the grout to get recessed or anything. Okay, so it's sticky. I'm not getting anything off my finger really. So if we just take it delicate, we should be able to wrap up this floor for the initial wash. I might just use a sponge rather than using the aggressive white scrubby. All right, so that's the initial wash. So we'll take lunch, you know, even an hour, hour and a half later. Once this completely sets up, then we can scrub it down again, make sure that any of the haze, I could even see a little bit of haze on the back there. But I'll show you how to get the rest of that off of there. But if you do it within about an hour, you should be in good shape. Okay, so it's been about 2 hours since I've done this. And so this is a really important step. And so that's just to use some Windex with vinegar. Now you can use that final wash solution with water and do that as well. But I found that the vinegar really does an excellent job. So I'm essentially just using a scrubby pad, but you just want to make sure that all the grout is completely stiff and hard at this point, and then just scrub off of it. There is a little bit of haze on here as of right now, and it's a little bit sticky in some areas. So that's what this is really gonna help out with. That vinegar is gonna break that up and you'll be able to get everything clean. So you're gonna need more microfiber cloths, but at this point now we're just really scrubbing everything down again and getting that final wash in. So there's the final product. That is the Spectralock Pro from Laticrete Epoxy Grout installation. I really hope a lot of these tips have helped you out and keep you from having any problems with actually installing your own grout, because this is something is definitely going to last for years to come and pretty much be maintenance free. So leave a comment down below of your own experience with it. Maybe you have some tips to help out others. But that's what this whole channel is about, is helping you do bathroom remodeling. So thanks so much, and I'll see you in the next video.